overall, this has been an absolutely horrible year for all investors everywhere. A lot of people are fearful about 2023. It turns out that the Bahamian regulators are holding about 3.5 billion in FTX assets. So FTX, one of the reasons why 2022 was so bad, but maybe things get a little bit better as SBF gets prosecuted and as FTX assets are discovered and given back to the people, right? So 3.5 billion of assets still held by Bahamian authorities. That's a lot. That's a lot that can be recovered and given back to the creditors and people that have money within the exchange, right? So I guess that's a good thing, but it's kind of a breaking news that there's so much being held, and the reason being, the authorities or regulators were afraid after that hack more were going to be withdrawn, and they didn't know if it was actually a hack or if it's SBF or Gary that was doing it, right? So they were trying to safeguard customer assets, at least according to them, and that makes sense. It makes sense. Now, SBF is still out on parole, or on bail, I should say, not parole, on bail. But supposedly he cashed out about $700,000 from some of the smaller exchanges. Some of the smaller addresses have been moving stuff and cashing things out, and many people feel like it is SBF himself. What I don't know why he's doing it. I don't know if he's violating his bail because there's something about his bail how he can't make purchases over $1,000, whether or not cashing out counts. Probably not, but there's something going on, probably to pay back his parents after putting up so much money to get him out on bail. So he's still awaiting his trial or the next I don't know, the next meeting with the judge. I think that's January 2nd, right? I don't actually know. I think it's a plea hearing. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of days leading up to that. Also, because of FTX and SBF, you guys know Solana has been absolutely decimated, and so many people are wondering if Solana will ever recover. Solana is now below $10, sinks to single digits, and it hasn't seen that since 2020, right? So basically, all the gains Solana had pretty much over the last 2 years is wiped out. So recently, as FTX collapse and the contagion spread, Solana's FUD has gone up through the roof, right? But besides that, other things happen. Like their own DeFi exchange, Radium, was hacked for $2 million. Could not have come at a worse time, right? And then you had top NFT projects, the very top two, saying that they are leaving Solana. They're jumping into Polygon and Ethereum instead. So it does seem like the community of developers are giving up on Solana right now. This is why Solana is so beaten up. But here's the thing. Vitalik is still saying, hey, now that we see a lot of the awful people washed out, the chain looks like it has a bright future. I hope the community gets its fair chance to thrive. That's the right way. That's the right way to be looking at this, to have the right attitude, right? Right now, it's not the time to be bashing. Vitalik could easily be bashing Solana at this point, but they are not, right? The Ethereum community and Vitalik, they are not bashing Solana because right now it's time to be healing, to come together, right? So whether or not Solana will survive, unknown at this point, but let's hope they do, and let's hope that the community stands together as we face more hardships in the future. Now, last two things I want to show you guys. Michael Saylor has sold some Bitcoin. Yes, that's right. So many people have speculated that Michael Saylor is feeling the pressure with Bitcoin being down so much, and he may be margin called and may be forced to sell Bitcoin. So that moment has finally come. However, it's not what you think. So this was just released today with the SEC. This is a Form 8K by MicroStrategy showing some of the moves MicroStrategy has made recently. And this does show that MicroStrategy did sell Bitcoin, I believe, for the first time ever in its history. Bitcoin bull Michael Saylor, oh no, he decided to sell Bitcoin, right? But it's not for the purpose you think. It's not because he was forced to. Okay, it wasn't because he was margin called or anything like that. Actually, he was taking advantage of tax harvesting. I told you guys, end of the year, a lot of people are taking advantage of tax harvesting, and that's exactly what MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor did. So if you scroll down, you look through here, it says during a period between November 1st and December 21st, MicroStrategy acquired about 2,395 Bitcoin for about 42.8 million in cash, average price 17,871. Okay, so unfortunately, he again overpaid. Every time MicroStrategy and Saylor buys, seems like it's towards some kind of local top and it goes down, right? But then here's the interesting thing. December 22nd, MicroStrategy sold 704 Bitcoin for about 11.8 million at an average price of about 16,776, right? So obviously he's selling at a loss, right? But then 2 days later, he decided to buy back 810 more Bitcoin for 13.6 million in cash at the average price of 16,845. So in total, MicroStrategy did add about 2,500 Bitcoins, right? Adding to their original total of 130,000 Bitcoin. So right now, as it stands, MicroStrategy has 132,000 Bitcoins, 132,500 Bitcoins. Okay, that is a whole lot. And the aggregate price of all the Bitcoin, 4.03 billion, billion with a B. But unfortunately, the average cost is at $30,397. So even though Saylor did buy the very first Bitcoins for MicroStrategy when it was below 10,000, unfortunately, most of the purchases he made was towards the top. So even with these dollar cost averaging, his average price is still quite high, above $30,000. And unfortunately, that means he has an unrealized loss of 1.8 billion. So it makes me wonder why Michael Saylor, if he's taking advantage of tax harvesting, why not sell a bit more and buy back, right? He has 132,500 Bitcoins. Why not just sell all of it and buy right back, right? Maybe there's some kind of tax code or something that prevents that since he is, since this is a corporation. I don't know. But if he's taking advantage, why not take a little bit more? Why only just a small amount, right?
But volatility is at an all-time low right now. Very, 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 very low, right? And that could be a great thing. We are seeing now how Bitcoin is a leading indicator of tech and markets. So Bitcoin always bottoms out first. And, well, it could go both ways, bottom or top. But Bitcoin is a leading indicator. So if Bitcoin's volatility is low, it found that bottom and it continues forward, right, and goes upwards. Well, that's a great thing because that means the U.S. markets and other markets around the world could be following Bitcoin's lead in 2023. So volatility is all-time low, which I would argue is fantastic. And of course, addresses with more than one Bitcoin, you could see is skyrocketing up. This is fantastic. This is what we want to see. I just got done talking about the Bitcoin on the exchanges, what's left over. More and more of what's left over is going into the hands of people that are holding, DCAing over long term. And not only that, they're going to the hands of people that are now self-custody, that's taking control of their own crypto. That Bitcoin is in self-custody wallets. And that's also fantastic, right? So these are all amazing things. That is why Bitcoin is going to lead the way. And I would argue some of the fundamentals like this, addresses with more than one Bitcoin, has never been higher. Some of the fundamentals could be argued it is greater now, right, than before. Greater now than ever been before, right? So this is fantastic. fantastic stuff.
There was a Bitcoin miner that was going to go into bankruptcy, but now they don't have to anymore because Mike Novagratz is bailing them out. Argo got $100 million injection from Mike Novagratz, so that's good. 65 million towards their facility and 35 million in loan. So right now there are a lot of people that are wondering if the miners are going to make it. Of course, some of the smaller ones probably struggling because Bitcoin's price is low, but the bigger miners, they're doing just fine. They have plenty of money. They have saved up plenty of money over the years. They have plenty of Bitcoin. If they needed to, they could sell, but they're not. So the bigger miners continue to mine while the smaller miners struggle. But now we're seeing some of the big guys coming in and rescuing them. So that overall is pretty positive. And if you look at this, the exchange flow from the miners basically at all-time low, right? So there's this notion that a lot of miners are selling. No, the smaller miners may be, but the larger miners are not selling off right now. You can see this is at a 5-year low. So very, very, very little Bitcoin from the miners are going into the exchanges. So most Bitcoin is still being held by long-term holders, and that is what we want to see. Now, it's not just the long-term holders. Of course, retail investors have been buying and accumulating and holding, right? I did see this interesting tweet from Peter Schiff, and we all know how much Peter Schiff loves Bitcoin. This is what he tweeted. My Christmas gift to holders is this Bitcoin chart. As you can see, Bitcoin is much closer to its ceiling than its floor. The yellow line that was once support is now resistance. Since the upside potential is so low and the downside risk is so high, the smart move is to sell today. Interesting. What makes them feel like the upside potential is so low and why the downside risk is so high, right? This is the question. This is the $1 million question. Why is Peter Schiff so negative towards Bitcoin? Now, if you were a pure chartist and you were non-biased, I could say, okay, maybe this is something we need to pay attention to, where the resistance has turned or the support turned into resistance. However, because this is coming from Peter Schiff, well, you got to take it with a grain of salt or a boatload worth of salt. So, of course, Peter Schiff, in my opinion, does this because, number one, he does not like Bitcoin because he's still trying to defend gold. And number two, he does this because he wants attention. And many people have called him out on this. But this one is actually a pretty nice response from Jack Fox that says, well, you know what? Look at this chart from the 90s where gold actually just went sideways, actually broke a little bit below, right? And then look at what happened in the 2000 when it started skyrocketing. But of course, you look on the right side, Peter's like, well, I doubt Bitcoin will follow the same path. Instead of breaking out, Bitcoin will likely break down. Bitcoin is an anti-gold. Again, no real reason given other than his dislike in Bitcoin. So, there you have it. Peter Schiff will always be flooding Bitcoin. He doesn't really have any real justification why he thinks Bitcoin is going to go down and not up, right? And when people compare Bitcoin's track to gold, of course, he likes to FUD that as well, right? But here, look at this response. Willy Woo responded to Peter Schiff. My gift to Peter Schiff every day of this year is this live chart in dedication to his hard work marketing Bitcoin to his audience of gold bugs. Okay, and you could clearly see, had you put $1 in gold going all the way back 13 years ago, it would be pretty much the same level 13.2 years later. But had you put $1 in Bitcoin, wow, that $1 in Bitcoin is now worth tens of millions of dollars. So, yes, $1 from 2010 would be worth 1.73 had you bought gold, but $1 bought in Bitcoin will be worth $22 million today. So this is a good reminder to Peter Schiff that investing in Bitcoin, right, there's plenty of upside. Even though, yes, there's downside, there's always corrections, but the upside is unlimited. And we have not nearly tapped that potential upside, not even a little bit. There's way more to come. And then lastly, just a few things. I did see this. Kraken is pulling out of Japan, right? Probably a lot of scrutiny in Japan right now because of the FTX collapse. So I'm thinking this has something to do with it. But with Kraken out of Japan, you only got one major exchange left, and that's Binance, right? No, they have a few others, but overall, I think there's a lot of scrutiny in a lot of countries right now due to what happened with FTX, unfortunately. And speaking of FTX,